Alright. I thought I'd come out to the lake. A little peaceful and quiet. Ouch. But. I don't know, something. I dropped the camera lens. Oh no. So I've done it again. I dropped the camera lens away. What do I do? Well, it's just like up there, like up there. Alright. Well, I'm out here. It's peaceful. It's quiet. It's like, what the heck do I do now? It's like, what the heck do I do now? I didn't know what to do. So I come out here for the peace and the quiet to get away. And I threw a few lines to see if I could catch something. I was hoping that, excuse me. So I was hoping I could catch something, but I haven't any luck yet, so no luck yet. I can see things jumping up at the top of the water. So I thought, I'd take a few selfies and this and that while I was out here. I went to another location, I went to another place to go out, but, deer were jumping out in front of me, crossing the road and this and that. I was like, it's kind of like a sign. It doesn't want me to go there and do that. So I was like, whenever it does something, I assume that there's something there that doesn't want me to see or something like that. It's like karma. It's knocking on my door, and it's telling me, it says, don't go there. This and that, But I gotta find some things to do. I gotta find things to do. Interest. I need things to do. It gets boring sitting around the house on the internet all day laying and not doing anything, It gets really boring to me because I'm used to being outdoors. I'm a very outdoors person. I like being outdoors. I'd like to go ahead and take this a few more steps, I'd like to go ahead and do some quad run. I should have brought a drink of water, so I should have brought it. But it's out of the way, up the hill behind me. The water is out of the way, up that hill behind me. It's way up that hill there. And it's up there in the vehicle. I forgot to bring it down with me. I'm like, here we go again. So I'll come out to do these things. I'll have a plan, then the plan falls apart, and I don't get to do exactly what I want to do. So I'm like, what the hell do I do then, I say, what the hell do I do then? So, I changed the plan, altered the plan. I decided to stop by here on the way back. So, I was actually on my way back home, and I decided to stop by here, see if there's anybody here, if it was, private. There was nobody here, that, nobody to bug me about what I'm doing and this and that. I figured I'd go ahead. I would just ramble a little bit. I didn't know. I had no clue what to say. I had nothing really to talk about. That's how boring it is. My fishing poles, I should have left them down here, but I took them back up there. I casted a few lures. It didn't even get so much as a hit. I could see the fish, the bait fish, I could see them pop in the top of the water. Usually that's a sign the bigger fish are chasing after them. They're trying to escape. It's like, I'm about to get out of here. Those bigger fish down here, and they're after my ass. And if they get a hold of me, they're going to eat my ass. Well, that's usually, what I catch. Sometimes I'll be throwing into the bait fish. I'll throw right into the bait fish, and I'll actually catch a fish. And so it'll usually be pretty good size, and it surprises me. A lot of times, I'm like, what the hell is that? I've said that so many times when I'm out fishing. It was like, a few days ago I was out fishing, and I threw out. I didn't even have time to think. The damn fish did not give me time to think. I had the fish set for small fish. I had it set for small fish so I could just drag them in. That's really the excitement when you're just dragging them in. There's no fight to the little fish, You just kind of drag them in. They don't put up much of a fight. Sometimes you'll hit something little that does, but most of the time, 99% of the time, you don't. So I was like, that sucks, but like I said, a few days ago, I got surprised. I didn't even have time to think about what to do. So I sat there, I reeled out, I threw. I thought first it snagged, no, so it was pulling. I could feel it pulling on it, and all of a sudden, it comes at me, and then it takes off the other way. And my line just went, it was like it was cracked like a whip. It was like the sound of a whip being cracked in the air. It just snapped my line just like, I didn't even have time to think, to loosen up the drag, or maybe flip the bail so we could just run with the line, and then I could adjust the drag and try to get it in. I didn't have time to think about any of that stuff. I mean, so I assumed it was a really big fish. It came at me and then it took off. It was like, and it shot out there really fast. I was like, what the hell is that? You know, a phrase that I will say many times when I catch a fish that surprises me, and it's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be. You know, so usually that's what I say. When I hook something, I can actually feel the weight of the fish, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bigger than the normal fish that I catch. Actually, this is way bigger than the normal fish I catch. And I'm like, what the hell is it? You know, at that point in time, I had no clue, because those type fish, they surprise me, because it could be anything. It's like, I've learned to call it the surprise fish. It's the surprise fish to me, because I never know what it's going to be when I get it in. I just know one thing when I get it in. It's going to be big. That's the only thing I know about the fish at that point in time, because it can be a variety of different fish. And usually when that happens to me, it is a variety of different fish. But you know, I think the majority of the time it's going to be a largemouth bass. Sometimes it's going to be a channel cat. It's a little bigger than normal. It's putting up a lot more fight than they usually do. And then the saw guy. The saw guy, they're nasty. The saw guy will just, sometimes they'll flip to the top of the water and they'll be like, it's like they wink at you and then they laugh at you and then they bite down on your line and just cut it and say bye. Bye-bye, I'm not coming out. You want me, you're going to have to come in and get me. I'm not. Sayonara. You know, things like that. And then, of course, sometimes it's a turtle. The turtles will do that too. The turtle and the saw guy, they're kind of a lot alike, because the turtle sometimes, they'll go ahead and they'll take your bait. They'll hook themselves. They know they're hooked when they're hooked because it's pulling on their neck and their head and everything else, because the turtle's a little bit different than a fish. But, you know, when they want to kick your ass, you know, and they want to get off the hook, they can't get off the hook, of course, but when they want to get free, they will just spin. They'll spin and head for the bottom of the lake, and then they'll take one of their paws. If they can get their paws on that line, they will take their paw. It's got like really sharp toenails on it, whatever you want to call it. I think they're called toenails. I don't have the proper terminology for it, but they'll just go ahead and cut your line. It's just like a fish with teeth. They'll go ahead and cut your line and say bye-bye. But, you know, they don't come to the top of the water and say bye-bye. They'll usually wait about 20 minutes or so. Then you'll see them pop their head up out of the water. They'll just pop their head out of the water and they'll wink at you. And it's like, ha, 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 you didn't get my ass this time. and then they just go. They just go just like that. All right. Alrighty. So, you know, I see a bird up that way. Would you guys like to see what the lake looks like before I head home? Because I'm getting ready to head home, so I think, you know, if you want to see what it looks like down on this end of the lake, of course, I'm down by the dam. And down by the dam, it's not very pretty around here. This is not the place. If you're looking for a beautiful place to come to, this is not the place of beauty. It's not a place where you're going to come for a lot of beautiful photographs and this and that. And so far, I've not caught anything down here. So I'm beginning to wonder if this is a hideout. It's a hideout, an escape. I think this is an escape route. When fish are ready to leave this lake, they head straight for the dam, they go over the spillway, and they head on downstream because they're headed for bigger waters. You know, so this lake loses a lot of fish that way. It loses a lot of fish going over the dam, and then they go on downstream. They lose a lot of bait fish that way too, and when the bait fish get too low, the fish in here, the bigger fish, they don't get very big, and then they start to get less and less and less. You have to have a lot of bait fish to feed the fish that are bigger than the bait fish, to feed the fish that are bigger than the fish that take the bait fish, to feed the fish that are bigger than the fish that take the fish that take the bait fish, and so on. You know, the chain has to grow. It's like this big long chain. If you want really big fish, you've got to have a whole lot of bait fish. I mean, but you know, it's like, you know, the management has been really bad. You know, as far as managing the parks, the state parks, and all this stuff here in Ohio, the management has been really bad. It's like, we have no money to do this stuff with. They have money. They just abuse the money. They use the money up by giving it to high-paying jobs, and then there's no money left to get these jobs done. They don't realize there's a lot of people out here in these states that would do these jobs for a lot less money, which would make the money go a whole lot farther, and then you could, you know, you could draw tourism, and this used to be a really high tourism type area. There wasn't much here, but it was a high tourism area because, you know, it was pretty well kept up, but it's like the last, I don't know, like last 30, 40 years. It was like the 1980s. The 1980s, they started abandoning tourism. They started going towards Wall Street. It's like high-paying jobs, and get those big pensions and this and that. We're going to find ways to pay for everything. And basically, they got on to Wall Street, and the deficit kept going boom, boom, boom. Inflation kept going boom, 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 and it just kept climbing higher and higher and higher. And 40 years later, they still haven't found the money to pay for anything. They're still looking. It's like, how do we pay for it? Basically, they just took a lot of the tax dollars and stuck it in their pockets, basically what they did. So a lot of the tax dollars went into their pockets, and a lot of the things that, to keep people healthy, to keep people, active and doing things that keep them healthy, those things went bye-bye. It became what? It became a world of people sitting at home behind a computer, and now it's a cell phone or a laptop or a tablet. It's like an iPhone or an iPad, those type things, And all the things that we used to do that kept us healthy and made us hard workers and kept the costs down and kept inflation down and kept the economy growing, all of a sudden it went bye-bye. It went out the door. And then what did we do? We replaced it. We replaced it with what? We replaced it with outsourcing. They started looking here in the USA. This is in the USA. I know a lot of my fans and this and that. I know you're from all around the world. So, a lot of the things when I talk about economy, it's the same in your country. It's the same way. It's been going on all around the world for quite some time now. It's about 30, 40 years. They've been slowly replacing, saying the private sector can do a better job. The public sector, they're idiots. They don't know what the hell they're doing, So they started replacing it with private sector, and the private sector was greedy and wanted as much as they could get. They thought they deserved high pay. They weren't really doing much of anything. They're sitting around behind computers and iPhones and iPads and desktops and all those things. And in an air-conditioned office, they never stepped their foot outside of an air-conditioning office. And when they did, it was to go to an air-conditioned car because it was like, it's too damn hot out there. And that was the first sign that we were losing everything outdoors. They did not support anything outdoors. No outdoor activities at all. They stopped supporting the lakes and the parks and all those things. All those things just got neglected, and they went way downhill. And they've gone down so hill, man. It's like, this would be a mess in places. I've been around to so many places now, and it's just completely been neglected for years of neglect. Well, see, I grew up, I didn't grow up around this area, but I used to come into this area a long time ago, like when I was younger. So, and I worked around this county. I worked around this county. Oh, and probably every town in this county I've worked in. I've worked a job for some farmer somewhere in every town in this county, if not 2 or 3 farmers, in every single town in this county. I've worked all over this county as the years went by. But, I don't understand. There's so many things I don't understand. I don't understand how it got so bad, how it went so long, because that's not a short season. When you got somebody destroying an economy, it's not a short season when it's 30, 40 years. I guess compared to all eternity, it might be a short season, but, it's not really a short season for somebody who's living down here. That's almost half their life. So that's not the short season. It's almost half their life, so. So I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. Will it turn around? It's going to take years to turn it around. It's going to take years to turn it around because it's going to mean rebuilding everything that they said would not work and putting those things back in place, actually, to get rid of everything that did work, that they said would work, that they said was the best way to do things, that they said was the best way to create jobs, which led them to looking for work in your countries. Yeah, they started outsourcing to your countries. This is to all my fans over in the other parts of the world. They started outsourcing to your countries because they found that as a way to escape from having to pay American pensions and American health care. And it's like, if we don't have to pay pensions or health care plans and all that, we don't have to pay that stuff. We can make a lot of money. They didn't think about, well, we need somebody to do the work. And when they did do that, what did they do? they started outsourcing the jobs to people in other countries. So they started looking at you guys around the world and saying, it's like they were saying, oh, these people work a lot cheaper than Americans. We can replace all the Americans, and we can cut the pensions, and we can cut the health care, and we can cut all that stuff. And we'll go back to the way it was in the days of who? I'm not going to say it. I think you guys already know what I was going to say. Back in the old days when they used to do everything the right way, the good old days, when they used to get drunk and high, screwed up and this and that, and they used to hit the steels and all that stuff. They'd be walking around, half the time they'd be stumbling around, They couldn't even stand up straight, You could not hand them the keys to your quad runner and say, here, why don't you have some real fun? No, wait a minute. I don't want you to kill yourself. Here, no, you're not getting my keys. Give me my keys back. You're not having my keys. You're not sober enough or whatever the hell you're on. You're obviously too wasted to be able to ride something as simple as this. I didn't want you to kill yourself because I didn't know if you have health care or not. Well, if you kill yourself, I guess you wouldn't need health care though, would you? All right. So, it's got really quiet and peaceful now. It's starting to dog sounds start to come alive. It's kind of like the way when I was down at Fort Hill. When I went down to Fort Hill and I did those trails at Fort Hill, it started getting dark and I was about 30 minutes into the woods, and I was like, and I could hear the sounds all coming to life, and they were coming to life everywhere. I could hear all these sounds. I was like, I hope this place is not haunted. I'm not prepared to see something from eternal life, the grave and beyond. So I don't want to see something like that while I'm out here in the middle of the woods, in the middle of the night, and I can't see the markings on the trees anymore, and I have no clue where the next sign is to tell me which way to go to get the hell back out of this woods. Coming off this hillside, of course I think it's called the Appalachian Mountains, but it's the low end. It's the low end of the mountains. It's not really big. It's not as big as it's not as big as they are in Smoky Mountains. It's also not as big as they are in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is like, that is really friggin' high. When I went through Pennsylvania over top of the Appalachian Mountains, it was 100 miles. Imagine 100 miles to the top of the hill, and that's still not big. I mean, you've got other mountains in the world that are way bigger than that. But just driving a car, can you imagine trying to walk up something like that? When I was down at Fort Hill, there was places, some places where I felt like I was walking up something like that. I was huffing and I was puffing. I was sweating like crazy as I was climbing up hills. I was like, does this hill ever end? I'm just out of shape. I've been living in an easy world. We've had an easy world. Pretty much everything's been paid for by credit. We had the convenience of the Wall Street credit card, which was actually the public sector credit card, but they preferred to call it the private sector credit card. So they just kept inflating everything, running everything up. It's just like a game to them. It's level it up. We'll just go higher. And now we got the one side did it that way, and then the other side's like, well, we need to do that because if we try cutting everything back, we'll collapse the entire economy. Of course, anytime you try to cut back and you cut back and you cut back, you're not just cutting the deficits, you're also cutting the GDP. Every time you do that, you can't cut the deficit without cutting the GDP. So basically, to balance the government, you have to be able to balance the budget. You have to have good management skills, where you can take a credit card and you can make your minimum monthly payments without getting in the hole. And you try to increase the GDP by smarter money management, by using what you have to make it go further and to provide for more people. Because on every piece of money in the USA, there's these words. It says, "In God we trust." It's like, that was just our forefathers that created America. That was just them saying. I think it was just them saying, we're not very good at